Welcome in to the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. I'm your host, Warren Jordan, and with me tonight is my esteemed co-host, Chatamarkin. Talk to me.
Crushed it. Best beginning ever.
Better than the last one that we didn't record?
17 minutes ago, we talked for 17 minutes. Actually, yeah, that was really good. What did I talk about 17 minutes ago? 17 minutes ago, I talked about how I've bamboozled my children into enjoying fantasy football. So we've drafted a whole bunch of leagues, and I sent you a screenshot of me scoring 235 in a single QB, single tight end, double flex. I think it's 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and I killed my son by 70 points. And so immediately after the games ended on Monday, we were like, okay, we'll start making some trades to make my team less and their teams better. So CeCe's going to get Cooper Kupp, Callie's going to get CMC, Eddie's going to get Mixon, and I'm going to get 3 droppable guys. And I'm just, being magnanimous, teaching them.
I mean, that's what I do to our league.
That's right? Exactly. I'm learning from you. I'm trying to do the same to my 3 children.
You get a superstar, and you get a superstar, and you get a superstar.
Yeah, and I'm going to drop all of the people you gave back.
Probably. With the picks I got back, it's going to be garbage.
No, 2025 is going to be great.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, yeah, so that was your intro. My intro was this really heartfelt thing we did about 9/11 and our memories of all of that, living together in Santa Barbara. I'm not sure I have the bandwidth to dig all the way back as deep as we did 30 minutes ago on that topic. But suffice it to say that Tommy and Chatham and I and our other roommates at the time spent that entire day in front of the television 23 years ago in shock and awe. I'm sure most of the other people in this league or who may listen were as well. And just, to remember the beauty of the patriotism that came and followed that event was incredible. And it is definitely a day we should all remember every year for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, and we talked about it. The day started with both Tommy and me getting phone calls from people, from the most important people in our lives. Emily, my wife, was in New York looking at colleges. And so she called me that morning. And after a terrible response from me because I was groggy and upset, Tommy's dad called him. And after Tommy's dad called him, we just took a little second, like a little beat. And I said, hey, Tom, you ever heard of the World Trade Center? And we went and turned on the TV. Crazily, and I don't remember, maybe I'm wrong. Did Tommy work with us at that Gina's Pizza?
At one point, yeah.
Early in the year, right?
Yeah, at some point we all worked there. Even Ryan, I think, worked there briefly.
Yeah, that doesn't count. But you and I had shifts that day. And I remember watching later in the day when things got really, really, really hairy. I remember watching the television from there. I mean, yeah, one of the worst days in our lives. And then followed, like you said, though, by just this abundance of patriotism, which was so beautiful. We at school on Monday, we talked about it because these kids, it is just a moment in history for most of them. But it's now called Patriot Day, which I think is super awesome. And at 8:46 today, the school kind of held a moment of silence just to think about, those lost and those who gave, and how wonderful the patriotism and the coming together was after that.
Yeah, it was a day to remember for sure. And this will be a show to remember. No.
No.
Too far.
We definitely crushed the first intro more because we were able to say things like, "Oh, I forgot that happened. That
I
teacher was
know.
a turd." It's all right. We still crushed it.
Well, this show may not be as important in everyone's lives as 9/11, but it is going to be awesome. And welcome back to the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. Tonight, we're going to dig into some basically week one takeaways from all around. But first, we do partially do this for our own league to help better our league. And each week we ask our members, hey, what do you guys want us to talk about? Do you have any questions? Do you have any strategies or players or anything in specific? And Tim responded with a great question, which is at the forefront of the minds of those who did not win this week.
Mm-hmm.
How and when do you decide to tank or contend?
Yeah. It's a great question across all formats, dynasty, redraft, right? Whatever, where you're just like, week one is a kick in the nuts. You either hit that confirmation bias, like I knew that this guy was going to go off, or you're like, oh my, I should just stop doing this and pick up knitting.
Sorry,
not knitting, knitting. So to that, not week one. You don't make that choice after week one. We talked about this. This was a record week as far as quarterbacks not doing well and not providing for their offenses. And there were a number of like really tiny things that were so close for some quarterbacks and not for others. So like Anthony Richardson, right, threw the ball how many times? And if he doesn't slip and somehow rocket a ball to Alec Pierce, like his 28 points is 20, and it's a significantly lower game. You take the opposite side of that, CJ Stroud. He barely missed Tank Dell in the end zone. That's another 8 points for him. That's another 8 points for Tank Dell. Same with Zay Flowers. I mean, I think the number 2 quarterback on the week was Lamar Jackson anyway. But like, if he hits two people, if he hits Zay Flowers at the end of the game instead of missing him, and Zay Flowers wide open in the middle of his end zone, he just threw it behind him. Or if
likely had smaller feet.
Well, if he ran the route an inch shorter, like just the smallest things, it's not time to panic. It's the first week of the season. Last year, there was some other huge statistic about like fewest touchdowns in the first week. So first week, take it easy.
I agree with that. And the one bit of context that I will add to this question is, do you own your own 2025 first round pick? If the answer to that is yes, all of your options are on the table. Mm-hmm. If the answer to that is no, why the F would you tank?
Yeah.
Unless you can get your own first back immediately, that's not a good place to be in.
Right.
If I did not have my own first, I would see if I can go get it and trade whatever asset I needed to get there. I would try and figure out who the owner of my first is and what do they want. If they don't want an asset I have, maybe somebody else has an asset I have that person may want. So maybe a little circular 3-way sort of action.
Right.
And if all of that fails, again, you want to do this quickly, because if you wait a couple weeks and it becomes apparent that your first round pick is going to be an early pick,
right,
cost of that is going to go up quickly. and you're also falling behind in the win column. Your other option is to push your chips in fast and start winning immediately.
Right.
So
Right.
whatever extra assets you have, in this case for Tim, he's loaded at quarterback. He has 2 elites, and
Right.
that's why he doesn't have his first round pick, because Albert traded Hurts to Jimmy for his first round pick last year.
Right.
So yeah. So in general, I agree with your context. In specific to Tim, those are your 2 options: go get it back, or go hard.
Right. And looking at his team, I mean, he's got Isaiah Likely on the bench, Pollard on the bench, Lamar on the bench. It's not a team that is really tanking. It's pretty close. And actually, I was telling you before, if I let's see if I can figure this out.
Yeah, Adams, Kelsey, Hopkins. Like, to me, this team is. I would be pushing my chips in and
Because how old it
stacking.
is, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, with this team, if you want to tank, like, you're gonna tank hard,
Right.
for multiple years.
But like if you look at Adams, Kelsey, and Hopkins, and then one of those QBs, it is. I mean, he could turn an Adams into a first round, right?
You would need a little more than Adams, but it's close.
So I was telling you that I offered up. I'm gonna pull it up right now. This is what I offered. You can see this, right, Warren?
I have to I have to add it to the stage.
Okay. Yeah.
So my window for this StreamYard screen is extremely small. So I think you said it was Burrow in a second for Hurts.
Burrow in a second for Hurts, which in the Dominator app is 157.17 for Hurts and 157.02 for Burrow in a second. And given how strong this 2025 class is supposed to be, a second is not bad. But to your point, and I actually did have a really great conversation with Tim. He was up with kids. I was up because I just started on The Last of Us, so sleeping is stupid, and that show's fucking rad. But so we were just texting back and forth, and I put it out there, and he was kind of wishy-washy, and I was like, dude, we're good. Go get a first. And I think that there are enough things that he has that if he were to tank, it wouldn't have to be what I did, which is 3 years of this sucks. I don't even care about this league. And had I even known further that, you were going to gut all my firsts that I got for the last 2 years, I think that he can still compete. And so it's just deciding if he's 0-3, sell one of those guys, start figuring it out. But I think I even play him this week. So
yeah, my thought on that is I think so with Hurts and Lamar, trading one of those pieces for down a little bit for a second. So you still have an elite and you have a down a little bit quarterback in a second. Like, to me, if I would sell one of those for a big haul outside of quarterback, whether it's picks, whether it's a position player, depending on which direction he's going. You know what I mean?
No, I do.
To me, like Sam, even though Sam has a ton of young quarterbacks, doesn't have a good one.
Right.
So like that's where I would steer him, or a first, or but it's like a marginal gain and a marginal decrease on the position.
Right.
Anyway, let's not spend too much time there.
No, but I do think it's important that we dove into that. Like, how do you because like Derek's doing this, right? And Ross is in his second year. And so, and just all of us, right? Like we're all trying to figure out like, how does the mind of a crazy person like you, like, how do you better your team with trades that are fair? And so like the trade that I sent to Tim is fair, super fair.
It's fair.
It doesn't actually better his team. And he had a gut instinct, and I wasn't trying to do something that was inappropriate, but his gut instinct. And so then when I looked at it again, I had exactly the same takeaway that you had, which was like, but this is actually helping, right? It helps me, and it's fair, but like, it's not that good of a trade for Tim. So I do think it's important that we went through that.
Yeah. And to develop the understanding of like the hit rate of picks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like first 3 picks, very high.
Right.
Next 3 picks, pretty high. Next 4 picks in the first round, you're already down around 50%.
Right. It's basically a second rounder.
Early second round, 50%. Mid to late second round, you're already into the 30% hit rate. You know, so like it's important to understand just getting a second, it's a dart throw.
Yeah, which is why what you and Albert did with your evaluating the difference between or the value of a 1, 2, 3 and like the 260 possible points down to a 130 at 110.
Yeah,
like that was I think the
variance between the 101 and the 110.
And I think the visual for people who in the league, like again, talking to Derek at school, it's like, wow. So 110, I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, who's the freaking 110 last year? Like, nobody cares. Who's the 110 2 years ago? Nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like Kendre Miller, who's like probably a flame. He's done. I mean, I hope not, but like has provided zero value for 2 years. So
yeah,
I think it's awesome. I think it's an important question, and I do think going into it's helpful.
So next up, we have 3 players that we wanted to dig deeper into selfishly because of our previous conversation with RC Fisher on our prior podcast 2 weeks ago, and how we believe, you know, we firmly believe in RC Fisher's process and a lot of other smart people like Matt Kelly and Player Profiler and Cody Carpentier, and the way they were looking at these prospects who were either vaulted way up to the top of the mountain or already cast aside after 1 year. And so that's Marvin Harrison Jr., Caleb Williams, and Will Levis. It made it easy because Caleb and Will Levis were playing against each other. So we're able to break down every single play in that game is to the best of our ability, not being tape bros. But also the way we dug deep into Marvin Harrison Jr. last podcast, wanted to see how his first game unfolded. So went back and watched every snap there as well, just to see what happened. So let's start with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
Chatham, give me your initial thoughts, because I know you didn't go back and rewatch every single snap. So like, what did you see? And what did you then hear over the last couple of days?
Yeah. So that was exactly what I was going to do. So I watched Red Zone. And we had a whole bunch of people over here, and it was really fun. Eddie had a baseball game, and we invited the team over, and we watched. And it was so much fun because everyone's talking about how Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy. And I kept saying, he's a dud. He sucks. The freshman at Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith, is better, which actually Justin Fields just came out and said he might be the best wide receiver ever. Irrelevant, not the point. So we got to look forward to probably, what's that, 25, 6, 7? So that's 27 class. Yeah, he's a freshman. Anyway, it was so much fun because every time the Cardinals came up on the screen, where the hell is Marvin Harrison Jr.? And then I did spend some time not watching every snap, but like it played out exactly how RC said it would. He was the deep threat, and they never looked deep. They looked at Dortch, they looked at McBride, and they didn't look at Harrison Jr. And it played out exactly as he said. Like, he was covered.
Yeah, not only that, like, I remember RC saying, I'm going to be so pissed if Marvin Harrison Jr. gets 9 targets that are these 2-yard stop routes.
Yes,
with the defender playing off of him because he's been running 9s all game.
Right.
And it's a free 4 yards. Well, you know what Marvin Harrison's one catch was?
Yep.
Was a 2-yard stop route for 4 yards because the defender was playing off of him.
which by the way, did you see Garrett Wilson's first catch in the game on Sunday or on Monday?
Yeah.
That is a stop. Like, the difference between Marvin Harrison confusing his cornerback versus Garrett Wilson making a fucking unbelievable over the guy catch.
Wait. You just said Marvin Harrison confused his.
You're right. He stopped.
There's no confusion. The defender was already 10 yards off of him.
Yes.
It was a free play. Anyway, my takeaways, which I thought you were going to say, was in comparison to Garrett Wilson or others. Oh my goodness. We have a reindeer.
Yeah, it's not 9 o'clock.
Hi, Pauline. You're famous. You're on the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast.
Okay. I know you came down to say that. Good night. Can you say good night, Warren?
Good night.
Good night.
Can hear you. Okay. Night, sweetie. Hey, go.
So my biggest takeaway was, and since we're on YouTube, I can give a nice visual. When I watched Marvin Harrison Jr. run a route, I think I can do it too. So he'd go like this. I'm like, can you move any faster?
Right.
Do you know how to accelerate in a lateral direction quickly?
Right.
Because I'm not seeing it at all.
Right.
I watched, I don't have the all 22. I'm not paying for NFL Premium Plus, whatever, so I don't get the all 22 to watch him every play. But I watched him every play that I could until he went out of the screen running a 9 route for no reason.
Right. And there were also so many other rookies who had, to your point, like moments of brilliance.
Lots of rookies showed up.
Dude, Coleman, McConkey, like McConkey's touchdown.
Thomas, Xavier Worthy.
Dude,
even Malik Neighbors with a malfunctioning jugs machine at quarterback.
I am so glad. That was so funny. But and that was the whole point, was at no point were you like, oh, this is the dude. And I think to the 3 people we're going to talk about, that's a lie. To Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams, part of the narrative is they can't possibly live up to the expectations, right? I mean, you got the 101 in fantasy and 101, 102 if it's super flex, probably a 101. And so they can't possibly. It's not fair. They're not in situations, but also Marvin Harrison Jr. just didn't look good. And to your question earlier, people are excusing his bad game based on one miss. And they're like, well, but if he caught that 60-yard touchdown, then he has 12 points. Okay, so he's 2 and 1.
That clipped highlight is so dumb.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what unfolded off screen in that play.
Yeah, right.
But the cornerback and safety pulled off of him for a reason, which tells me that was not an option. Right. That I'm free. That is not an option anymore. Whether it's pressure got to Kyler or it was a run play, I don't remember, but that is such a. Analysts don't like to be wrong.
Right.
So what they'll do is they'll post shit like that on Twitter or wherever and say, well, look, I would have been right if Kyler would look downfield. You know, that's where that's coming from.
Right. But even if he makes that play, and again, to your point, I don't know what the fuck happened. Let's say that touchdown happens. He has 2 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown.
And 11 points.
Right. How is that an impressive debut? Like, the only way that changes anything is in the fantasy world, where the score isn't abysmal. The 1 point isn't killing your team. But like, it really doesn't change his ability to dominate like Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman had like I forget the exact number, but his like target share was like 20-something% in his first game. Brian Thomas had how many? Even Xavier Legette had 8 targets, even though it all came when DJ left the field. Like, all of that is real. And Marvin Harrison had 1 motherfucking catch. Like, it doesn't make
McBride.
sense.
Sorry, I'll back up. James Conner was option 1.
Yes.
Kyler Murray was
How does he not get
2.
older?
Kyler Murray's feet, I mean.
Yeah, no, I know.
The Flaming Dortch, the Human Dorch, was option 4.
Bum me out. I wanted to be Wilson.
Where are we now? Trey McBride was option 4 or 5, wherever we are in the hierarchy.
You're 4.
And I'm not sure Marvin Harrison Jr. was next. Like,
right.
Michael Wilson got a touchdown, didn't get as many targets, but I even was like trying to watch Kyler's head. So every play I was like, okay, is Marvin at the top or the bottom? And when the play started, try and see where Kyler's head was facing.
Right.
Like, I didn't chart it out or anything, right? But it was like definitely under 20% of the time was he even looking Marvin Harrison's way. Yeah. His direction.
And anyway. To the point, there were 4 other wide receivers from this draft class who had good to great starts for their teams. Xavier Worthy, great. Yeah. And showed something that, like, as a dynasty manager, you're just friggin' pumped that those guys are on your team.
All right, well, let's burn another generational prospect to the ground. Caleb Williams.
Well, we said it 2 weeks ago. We said it, and this shouldn't make me happy, but Keenan Allen's out. Rome Odunze's out.
Yeah. You hate when they get bailed out, right?
Yeah.
And there'll be justification.
Yes. Whereas like Jaden Daniels has McLaurin, who's awesome, and had a 0 ADOT, which actually
that offense is so anemic.
Well, but it's not his freaking fault. But that's the whole point. Whereas
Cliff Kingsbury needs to never return to the NFL and go back to college.
While I hear you, it's not fair how bad that offensive line is. I mean, it's actually the worst offensive line ever.
Terry McLaurin lined up in the same exact spot.
I know.
Never went in motion the entire effing game.
I know.
You got to be more creative than that.
It really bums me out. And I know we're not trying to talk about Jaden Daniels, but now Caleb Williams has the Jaden Daniels situation, right? Where he has, and we always knew this, he has a 0 for running back because they're playing Swift. What is that about?
Well, they're not playing their best running back. So yes, I agree with you.
Right. So Herbert isn't bad. And then Roshan is the man. And I literally picked him up for 0 in like 7 leagues, just praying that the Bears make the right choice. But Caleb looks terrible. And it's exactly what RC said. Like, inside the pocket, he looks skittish. He can't let it slowly close on him while he stands in there.
Too short.
Caleb Williams is too short?
Yeah.
How tall is Caleb Williams? I gotta look this up.
6 foot, 6'1". I mean, I think he's listed at 6'1", which probably means he's 6 foot. That is not tall enough to stand in the pocket
Oh, you're right. He's 6'1".
and see out. Anyway, which is important, and that'll be a comparison to why Will Levis can stand in the pocket because he is tall. But yeah, so Caleb, I think the only way Caleb is ever going to make a good football play is when he's just like RC said, when he can roll out to his right and he can hit somebody streaking across the field from left to right.
Right.
And he did that. He made a great throw to DJ Moore. It was beautiful. It was a great play.
Right.
I don't even think that he's going to be very productive rolling out and scrambling like Russell Wilson did at once upon a time.
No.
I don't think he wants to get hit, just like RC said. Like
I just don't even know he's that tough.
Somebody. I will say he does have the sense of mind to not flick the ball out to the defenders from his knees.
I mean, that couldn't have been
and lose the game.
That was unbelievable.
There was several situations where Caleb's brain could have short-circuited completely.
Right.
And he could have turned it over, and he didn't.
Right.
There were 2 instances where he got away with a no turnover. There was a bobbled snap by him, and there was a bobbled handoff by him. But he didn't do something as dumb as Will Levis did and flick the ball with his offhand from his knees.
Like 20 yards, by the way.
So
first
that
of all,
can't
what
happen.
The hell? Yeah. Will Levis. Yeah. So back to what you're saying. Today I listened to FF Dynasty on Player Profiler, and it's Casey and the Big Co. And they had this incredible take on why Isaiah Likely is such a hit and why Rashad Bateman is not for the Ravens.
That's a hard pivot. We're going to
no.
Okay.
I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to land this mother flower. So the point was that Lamar Jackson has never been a stand in the pocket, structured quarterback.
Yeah.
And so Isaiah Likely fits what he does. Whereas Rashad Bateman, if Rashad Bateman is on, I don't know, Burrow's team, who can stand there and figure it out, and he knows 7 steps, one. So Isaiah Likely fits it perfectly because he just plays, junkyard ball. It's awesome. It seemed like if you put Keenan Allen with Caleb Williams, and Keenan Allen is pretty widely renowned as one of the greatest route runners in the league, Keenan Allen will not help Caleb Williams because Caleb Williams, to your point, works well in when things break down.
Yeah. And
so does DJ Moore. And I don't have any idea what a Dunze's role is yet. Just watching it was which is kind of cool that it was all over the place. But it as I was listening to them, I started thinking about Caleb Williams and how the league or his team will need to figure out how do we get the best out of him? And he's not the athlete that Lamar Jackson is. So he's not going to run ever. He's not a Stroud who could if he wanted to. We saw Stroud do it in college. We've never seen Caleb Williams ever run. So if it's just working outside the pocket and he's not Russell Wilson, then the floor's low, the ceiling's low, and it's just I can't even think of someone who we would be comparable to. Jeff Garcia, maybe, and he was the number 1 pick. And so I don't know. It seemed to fit everything RC said, and then everything that we had talked about before.
So let's go to the other side of the ball in this game. We already alluded to where Will Levis looked awful, and to me it was really just 2 plays.
Yes.
One of them, he got blasted from the blind side, which resulted in a sack fumble turnover in the fourth quarter, which resulted in points for the Bears. And then the last possession where he flicked it out to the sideline right to the defender, which was gut-wrenching after watching Will Levis actually play what I thought was a really good game. You talk about Caleb's lack of poise in the pocket and being willing to step up and take the hit and throw. Levis did that all day.
All day.
He got hit multiple times and made the throw multiple times. My only other criticism other than that stupid turnover flick was he does need to learn how to not get hit when he goes into hero ball and runs for a first down. Like, bro, you already got the first down. Or even if you don't get hit.
Right. No, he I was bummed. I may or may not have put some money on the game.
And then it got bailed out by the stupid turnovers and the punt block.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
And I mean, it was the Titans looked better just across the board. And he looked better.
Even against a much better defense.
A much better defense.
Everybody's talking up this Bears defense like they're elite secondary. Elite
I'm not alone tonight.
Hey, babe.
He said, "Hey, babe."
Is it just you and Warren?
And YouTube, because we're really popular.
And the world.
Nobody cares.
Move on. But no, I also thought the thing, like, he and Ridley weren't really in sync, and I got so excited about that. Like, that'll get better. It was just fun. Like, they look like a fun team. They're an easy team to root for. Pollard was on fire.
Yeah. Pollard looked
not see that
good.
happening. Really good. And I picked up Spears late in a couple drafts, and I was like, damn it. Like, one round earlier, I could have had Pollard. I don't know, man. I think they're going to be a good team. I think they're well coached. He was stupid. He's still a kid. I mean, he's still younger than like friggin' 2 of the 3 first quarterbacks taken off the board. He's still younger than Jaden Daniels and all those guys. So, like, I don't know, man. I don't see a lot that I mean, 2 stupid plays away from winning the game. He's a kid. I think that it could be good.
So we've been pretty negative. So why don't we talk about some things? We're not just gonna go around the league and talk about the superstars that showed up, right? Like, we don't need to talk about the Josh Allens, the AJ Browns, and so Saquon Barkleys, and so on. But let's talk about some people that surprised us or like outperformed their ADP.
Right. So I'm gonna skip the first one. I'll let you do that one. I want to get to Cup.
Take the easy one.
Well, for a couple reasons. No, that's it. No, I like that. Obviously, the 170 targets that he got in a game, right? Like, what was it? 19, 20 targets, 20 targets in a game. A lot of people saw that coming, given that since his Triple Crown, he hasn't, A, been healthy, and B, they brought on someone new, Puka last year. But then you hear all this garbage about Puka and his health in training camp, and now Puka's out. So he's IR'd. But today they dropped a thing, and McVay said he will miss more than the 4 weeks. So, I mean, Cooper Kupp jumps. If you got him in even the second round in a redraft or in a startup, he is now in my opinion, like, I get that he's old. He's 31. But this year, he could potentially be the number 1 player in fantasy, right? Like, he was 1 touchdown short. He was number 2 in fantasy this week behind Jaden Reed. He's
Did you
one
balloon yourself.
I thought you did that. How would I? I'm like so gestury. Did I balloon myself?
I don't even know how to do that.
I thought you ballooned me because you were calling me a clown. I was like getting excited for your take. Did you just I don't know.
I have no idea how to do that in StreamYard. Continue.
StreamYard just ballooned me.
Yeah, I think they sensed your enthusiasm and gave you some balloons.
So is that a positive or is that like you're a clown, hold these balloons? Anyway, I just think that the Cup is going to be to the moon. I mean, he doesn't actually have a history of injury. He was dealing with the same injuries basically for 18 months. Now he's healthy with Stafford. They have boyfriend breakfasts together. It's like, dude, to the moon. And I bought him for so much in an auction draft. Like he was going like $27 was what you're supposed to spend. I spent $41 and everyone was so like, that's an overspend. I win. Y'all dumb. So I am on the Cup train for sure.
I am on the sell Cooper Cup train.
I told you we were on the opposite sides of things today.
I do not think there is any way in hell that Cooper Cup will last all season carrying that team. No way.
Because
he's 31 years old. There's no way he can do 14 receptions, 21 targets a week. No way.
But they're not the same targets that Amon-Ra gets. Like he doesn't get hit. He finds pockets of zone.
He'll get hit.
Sure, once a game, twice a game. But even watching that game against a really good Lions defense, I didn't see him. I mean, maybe I'm just forgetting, but I don't remember one because it was the only game on, right? It wasn't red zone.
Yeah.
It was like he had 20 targets. I don't remember
that
one.
So that gets to my other point is every single, except for the touchdown where he was able to slip out and get to the end zone, which also wasn't a splash zone target.
Right.
Not a single one of those targets was in an area of the field that results in a lot of points.
Totally agree.
So every single one is like a 1-point catch.
Totally agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you can convince somebody that you have a 25-point a week wide receiver,
right?
If you can get Amon-Ra St. Brown for Cooper Cup,
well,
right? Yeah. Or you can get what's a better example? You can get who disappointed from the top?
Drake London. So here we go.
No.
In Dynasty, are we talking redraft or are we talking Dynasty? If we're talking redraft, I really can't think of
Dynasty.
So Dynasty, I have Cooper Cup. Who would you? And I knew this season was going to happen. I didn't know. I was right.
Yeah, I believe that he would come out and outperform Puka.
Yeah. So
I didn't disagree with that.
So
especially with the injury, which kind of bailed out the whole take. Like I believe that before Puka got hurt.
You're totally right. Okay, so then, but who then? So like, would you right now? Do you still have Tank Dell or does Albert?
I do.
So would you give me Tank Dell for Cooper Cup? Right.
Hell
so
no.
like, that's the whole point. So who could I get for Cooper Cup right now? Cooper Cup is the league winning.
You could though. You absolutely could, just not from me.
Okay. Sorry. Honestly, that was the guy. Like, who do I want 7 years from now where I'm like, that Cooper Cup season and I was 4-4.
Well, hey, Tim's looking to contend. Maybe look at his team.
I'll take Devontae Adams.
Anyway, we got to move quicker through these. We're almost at an hour.
We're at like 6 hours, buddy. We already did this once. Go to your first guy because I think it's a super positive
Okay.
one.
Yeah. So I'll back up and we'll talk about Sam Darnold. We don't need to go into too much depth here, but and this probably doesn't apply to single QB dynasty so much, but Superflex 2 QB. We talked about this before the season even started. Like, you put somebody who has any level of competency in a system that is run well, has good coaching, and has the best wide receiver in the league. Like, that's what we saw on Sunday was this is going to work. And I think that Sam Darnold will consistently put up, in that like 16 to 18 points per week range. I'm not talking about him being the QB1, but you put that in your super flex slot, like that is money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
And
that's going to be better than Cooper Kupp on a lot of weeks, right? In a super flex slot.
Don't say Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp in the same sentence. No, but even who cares about Sam Darnold and his role in a one QB? The players that benefit from him, right? Like JJ or Aaron Jones, or even Ty Chandler. Like, it's pretty awesome that he is so competent as a quarterback and now in his career that their offense under O'Connell is a good offense. And again, we're 1 week in the season. I really hope it's true though.
And you know what's cool to think about is where was he last year?
I know.
In the same type of system as a backup for the 49ers. So he got a whole year of learning and practicing that system.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's a good chance he'll be the starting quarterback for the Vikings next year.
Dude.
Why would you roll JJ McCarthy out there if Sam Darnold takes the Vikings to a 500 record?
I was gonna say 9-8. If they go 9-8, that's not that hard. In their league, like, man, the Bears are not.
As long as he doesn't do anything stupid.
We should put money on the Bears not hitting their number. Do you know what it is? It's probably like 8.5. God, we should put like $1 trillion on it. We should actually have the league give $100 to each of us.
We were actually going up to Samish Labor Day weekend, and up in Washington, sports betting is legal, but you have to do it at Indian casinos.
Yeah,
that's the only place you can go place a sports bet. You can't do it on your phone, which is really weird. So the tribes have so much power in Washington State. They agreed to legalize it at their house. Right. And so Allison really wanted to stop at the outlet malls. It's like an hour north of Seattle. And I'm like, can I go next door to the Indian casino? I haven't placed any season-long bets yet.
Did you place any?
She wanted to shop for herself, and I was still with the kids, so
that's such a better. I thought you were like, that's such a better ending because that's such a real ending to the story.
Nope, that was me in the mall bathrooms helping my kids pee and wiping the butts and getting some crappy mall food. It's like, dude, oh my God.
I actually am starting to be sad about the days when Pauline is in the men's bathroom and she's like, what is he doing? And I'm like, oh my God, just get into the stall. Oh God, it's going to make me sad when I don't have those days. But anyway, point is, they're going to have a good season, right? And by good, I just mean they will exceed expectations. O'Connell will get people will think he's a saint, and they'll think that Darnold's a saint. JJ is going to have a year. Aaron Jones is going to have a year. I actually was even thinking in my redraft leagues for trying to trade for Aaron Jones because everyone's so down on him. But man, he looks super good. Like, he is exactly what it put Sam Darnold on the Giants, and you have a wide receiver 1 out of Malik Neighbors.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Giants, Daniel Jones looked real bad. We all knew he was bad, but we thought like Brian Daboll, best wide receiver in this class. Like, come on. My gosh.
I don't know what to say. Yes, and so this week will tell us a lot when they play Washington.
Yeah.
But dude, like, I think that's the whole point. Getting back to Will Levis, like, if Will Levis is on the hot seat after 2 not successful years, and Daniel Jones got $140 million,
Right.
like, that tells us so much. And I mean, who's coming out of college? I mean, college they have a couple good players. Like Ewers is going to be a stud out of Texas, and obviously everybody's waiting for Manning. And then the Georgia guys kind of looking good, but like there aren't a lot of NFL quarterbacks coming out of college right now, and so it just blows my mind that the Giants are so poorly mismanaged that they spent that kind of money on Daniel Jones when they could have done what the Steelers did. Like the freaking Steelers have 2 bad quarterbacks, and they won because they have great coaching and they have great management, and they have an understanding of what they do in their system, right? And the Giants are just holy fart potatoes. That's just bad.
Yeah, speaking of the Steelers, they pulled Kirk Cousins' pants down and made him play the
no
rest
idea how you were going to transition that.
They made him play the rest of the game with the pants around his ankles.
Left hand on his ha-ha.
Yeah. My God.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm worried about those 2 quarterbacks, Cousins and Rodgers. I was listening today, and no, that's a lie. I think it was yesterday, actually, when I was listening to the waiver wire thing, and they said that Aaron Rodgers actually didn't throw the ball to the right side of the field, and they didn't know why, but it like that is his Achilles. Like to turn like that, they were saying that could be his Achilles. Kirk Cousins looked terrified to get hurt.
It's also possible that that's where Charvarius Ward is, so they just decided to line Garrett Wilson up on the left instead.
I see what you're saying. Was Ward not guarding Wilson?
I don't think Ward moves, does he?
Oh, I don't.
He travels.
I just, when I look at those things, I'm like, oh, he good. He gonna guard Garrett Wilson.
No, that actually doesn't happen as often as you think. Like Sauce Gardner doesn't even move.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Most of them stay on their side, even the best ones. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
No,
I mean,
traveling corners, let's say out of the 10, best, like maybe 1 or 2 actually move.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Well,
which is like, Brock Purdy, why the hell are you throwing it to Ayuk when he's on Sauce's side? And then the next play goes the other side, completion, 25 yards. Like, duh.
Dude, back to positive, though. Ayuk was a drop away from having an incredible first game after not playing in training camp. But anyway, to Kirk Cousins and what's his face? The old guy looks like Splinter, quarterback for the Jets. That idiot.
Aaron Rodgers.
I know. I do think that they, to your point about training camp and easing in, I am not out actually on Kirk Cousins. He did some really good stuff with Pitts. London was a hot bust.
Yeah.
He did look skittish.
You know,
I know.
For Kirk Cousins?
Yeah. I do know.
You got the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Saints, and the Bucks, which are all like I would say two very good defenses and
Yes.
then two pretty good defenses.
We don't really know about the Saints and Bucks yet.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs, dude, how did the Chiefs defense get better when they lost their best secondary? Like, I don't understand. They look so freaking good. I hate the Chiefs. Are the Niners really the Bills from the
Yeah.
early 90s?
Yeah,
That's
doesn't that suck?
dude, like they're so good. I just
Yeah,
want
they
one
need to have
Super
a
Bowl.
special room in Canton for
And-
the Bills, the late 90s Eagles,
Yeah.
or early 2000s Eagles, I guess it was. And yeah, the 2020 Niners.
You run into a dynasty and you're the best team in the league, except for Patrick Mahomes is a wiener face and better at everything. Makes me sad. Anyway, I'm not out on Cousins. He did look skittish and scared. I think that makes a whole lot of sense coming back from an injury.
Hey, at least Bijan outtouched Tyler Algier like 90% to 10. That's good.
Dude, Bijan looked rad.
Especially against the Steelers.
Yeah, he looked a touchdown. He was a touchdown away from having like his big breakout game. I mean, he looked good, and the way they used him, it was so much better.
Speaking of other terrible teams, Panthers all around. I don't even know if we need to talk about them.
The only thing to ask for a friend is when they bring back Jonathan Brooks, do you think that matters? Like, do you think he adds any value at all?
No.
To any team, to a fantasy team?
This year? No.
Okay.
Unless I had an IR spot, I would definitely not be holding on to Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah.
Like, why?
I don't know.
I'd rather have Jordan Mason.
Oh,
I would have put 65 or 75 fab on Jordan Mason over Jonathan Brooks this week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in a redraft league, I put I put $19 for Bucky Irving and dropped Jonathan Brooks because we don't have an IR spot.
Yeah,
so he's already out for weeks, and their team looks like dog crap, and so who cares? So like, even if he comes back, yeah, I'm in the same boat. It just bums me out because that guy could be a stud.
Yeah.
Oh God. I don't know. Move on. It's not worth talking about.
Oh, man. More depression. The Browns. I'm not sure if Watson hasn't recovered from his shoulder injury or if he just doesn't care anymore. Because that happens. Like, you get paid the amount of money he does. The whole world hates you. Like, he might just not care. Like, whatever. I'm just going to show up and get my paycheck. I'm not going to work out. Like, I'm not sure he cares.
And I don't think he practiced Tuesday. There was some report that showed up on Sleeper that said that he had missed some time. And so, I mean, dude, if we get the Jameis treatment in Cleveland, that would make
I think it would be better.
Dude,
I mean, look what Flacco did.
I don't. I don't know if you've met my buddy who's a Cleveland guy, but he's my college roommate, and in joking about how good they're gonna be, we were like back and forth, and I was like, dude, what about Jameis? He goes, everyone here wants Jameis to beat the quarterback.
Yeah.
So I mean, if
I've tried really hard to get Jameis on our 2 QB player profiler dynasty team. The dude won't give him to me.
I love that. That's a great call.
Tried so hard because we have John Watson.
Yeah, I do think though that as far as teams go, Ford still has so much value in Cleveland. Watson can't hit anyone.
I would be looking at the schedule with Ford and seeing to trade him after the next softest opponent they have. Because I do think at some point Nick Chubb will come back and play.
Yeah, he will.
Maybe like 6 or 8 weeks in.
So they go Browns, Giants, Raiders, Commanders, Eagles,
Commander,
Bengals.
that one.
I would say
Trade him after that one.
so it goes Jags is week 2, Giants, terrible. Raiders is pretty good. Commanders is week 5.
After week 5, that's when you trade Jerome Ford.
Yeah, because then they go Eagles, but then so that's week 6 is Eagles, but then it's Bengals, who's a positive, but that's week 7, and then it's Ravens, Chargers, Saints, Steelers.
Yeah,
So it's like
you don't want any piece of that.
no.
Speaking of the
Ravens,
Bengals,
yeah, that's bad.
definitely did not predict them to get boat raced by the Patriots.
Dude, do you do Survivor?
No, but I've heard 30% of all Survivor pools in the country are burnt
Done.
to the ground.
So I've done Survivor for 15 years, my college buddies. The last 3 years I've been out the first week, and I told my students on Friday that I picked the Bengals. And so a kid showed up with an apology letter on Monday.
Whoops.
And I was like, I told you, I'm the jinx. I'm the jinx.
No, this is not a jinx. This is a systematic approach to a team that should be better.
Yeah.
Being bad.
Yeah.
Their offensive coordinator is gone.
Yes.
Their team hasn't played together yet.
Yes.
I mean, those two things right there, that's it.
I mean, just do
Get back to me in a month and a half, and I'll bet on the Bengals.
Dude, I'm so not out on the Bengals. I totally agree with that. But think about how everything went down. Everyone was so high on Higgins and how amazing he was, and it's his contract year and blah blah. And then he's hurt, and then you put in Slashavas and Chase, who doesn't even want to play for the team, and he hasn't. And Burrow hasn't been throwing it couldn't.
And Burrow's coming off a significant wrist surgery last year.
Right.
You have every possible factor of bad juju here.
Yeah.
It's not going to get fixed next week. I think that I don't even care who the opponent is.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a month and a half, assuming everybody stays healthy. In a month and a half, look for a good Bengals opponent in mid-October. And that's when I'll go bet the Bengals to cover.
So you do care who they have next week because it's the Chiefs. So they're going to get steamrolled.
Yeah.
But then their next 4 games are awesome. It's Commanders, Panthers, Ravens, not awesome, and Giants.
Oh, okay. So it might come sooner than I said.
It really could. The Commanders game could be a big bounce back. Should be a big bounce back. And then Panthers are going to steamroll the Panthers, Commanders, Giants. So they'll actually be 3 of 3 likely, to your point, in mid-October when they're starting to figure their team out. And then they go, and then it's like now it's on. They go Browns, Eagles, Raiders, Ravens, Chargers. And then it's on. They got to be ready to rock.
Let's, if you have 1 or 2 more specific, we can touch on them. I don't have any in particular that I need to talk about. I just have a broader point that I want to wrap up on when we're done.
Yeah, just people that I'm pretty high on. I thought that Dobbins looked great, and I went and tried to pick him up in a bunch of leagues. And I thought that Williams looked great. Jameson Williams, I thought he looked great. I think that what Jameson Williams provides that offense is really powerful. Amon-Ra not getting the ball is a nothing burger. He's still a top 3 wide receiver, 4 wide receiver in the league. But Jameson Williams' speed over the top will actually make, I think, Amon-Ra better. And And so I'm really excited about, I mean, not for the Niners, but I think this Detroit team is like, whew, if the Niners don't win it this year, it's over. The Detroit Lions are closing the door on the Niners. Jameson Williams' speed and his hands and his ability to get open, and to what you said in that, like, what you call it, the like point scoring levels of the field. It's just, I think that he could really take the top off that Detroit Lions offense.
Jameson Williams is like a wait and see for me.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams defense is terrible.
Yeah.
So that was kind of feeding into the bigger point topic that I wanted to get to is I'm not going to overreact to any player who went off against a bad defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what Jameson Williams did. And maybe not. I'm not saying he's not going to have any success. I mean, shoot, Craig Reynolds and some other scrubs had success in the 2 slot for the Lions. I don't think that 25 fantasy points is going to be a frequent occurrence for this guy. I think you're probably looking at more of the, 4 to 5 catches for 60 yards, the 8 to 10 point range, and then he'll have 5 or 6 touchdowns on the year, and he'll be a low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3, something in that range.
Got it. Yeah, I just think, like, one, their schedule's pretty easy. Playing teams, they play the Cardinals. I mean, the Vikings and Bears. I don't know what to think about the Bears defense. I mean, they looked super good, but I don't know if they are. But I do think that, like, I mean, again, we'll see. I mean, I think Levis bailed them out. Is their defense good? They had a strip sack. They had the dumbest interception of the season, and then they returned a punt for a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
Or was it special teams? So that's what I'm saying. Like,
special teams.
Is it their defense or their special teams? So I just think that, like, the number 2 receiver on the Lions, I don't think he's an 8 to 10. I think he's more of a 10 to 12. I think he's a Waddle light. And I would want my hands all over that. I don't think he's a wide receiver 3. I think he's a stronger wide receiver 2. And because I do think, like, the league knows now, man, Amon-Ra is a fucking beast. And so you stop Amon-Ra, and then when you get in the end zone, you know that Laporta is the target. Goff missed him on a touchdown. And so they doubled him up the same way everyone bottled up, Mark Andrews and let Likely go bananas. So I do think that he could have a wide receiver 2 season.
Okay. I won't dig in any deeper there. Anyone else you wanted to touch on?
No. Man, we talked for a bit. I like this.
Well, so the bigger overarching point that I think is really important is just, one, be careful. Like you said off the jump, was like, don't get too excited from week 1 results, especially when those results are coming with a terrible defensive opponent like the Bucs playing against the Commanders.
Right.
Sure, Baker Mayfield is having his second coming. It started last year.
Yep.
But
all for it.
They played the Commanders. It's probably the worst defense in the league. Same thing with the Saints. They played the Panther. So sure, and when you have a chance, target playing against those bad defenses.
Yep.
But don't get carried away with the performances of the skilled players in those one-off games. And conversely, don't get too scared off the guys who underperform against the best defenses in the league, like Garrett Wilson getting shut down against the Niners, or
Right.
Mark
Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews, like we saw get shut down. Focus of the Chiefs defense.
It is pretty cool. So many people, and I mean this, like from the fantasy footballers to the player profiler people. So many people went back thinking like, "Oh shit, is Andrews really done?" And no, he was double teamed, if not triple teamed, the entire game, and was coming back from a car accident. So while I do think putting a huge, so it is like competing thing, right? Like Isaiah Likely is their third best option, and he fits very well with what the way Lamar Jackson plays. To your point, dismissing that their best option is a badass is stupid. The Chiefs have had Mark Andrews' number for years. He's going to have a banger game this week, and don't freak out about it.
Well said, my friend. Let's call it a night there. We'll do it again, hopefully next week. Thanks for listening in to the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. Chatham, thank you as always.
Love you, buddy.
Good night, everyone.
Ah, ah, ah.